you guys actually had a podcast episode about hustle culture. Can you share what you found the ideal work week is? Was there a wall of how many hours that typically people can work? What did you discover from doing that podcast?
Well, so on like the science end, so I think there's two perspectives. It's like our sort of philosophy on life, and then the science part of it is obviously there's lots of countries, cities, places that have tested like 4-day work weeks, have tested like shorter work days, and generally like the results have shown like a 4-day work week actually makes people more productive. Like having a 3-day weekend, like they end up using their time and capitalizing on the time they have more efficiently, which is interesting. So just necessarily working more hours does not necessarily make you more efficient. But I think in the broad terms of hustle culture, and I think society's starting to have this conversation more and more. It was like a huge boom of like hustle. And now people realize like that's not necessarily healthy. It's not necessarily promoting the values of like just trying to make money and be successful are not things that really fill your soul, right?
It's all connected to capitalism and
so that comes into our philosophy of like, you know, and I think we get to say this because we've gone through that struggle ourselves, where it's exciting. It's so fun to like make a bunch of money when you're young and then get a bunch of viewers and have like this ability to have people watch your stuff. And that, I don't want to take that away from people, but having been on the other end, it's like none of that really matters. Our most popular videos are by no means the videos we're most proud of and that fill us the longest and that we think back on, right? And the amount of money we've made is really not, of course you want to have like a stable life and be able to spend your money how you want, but ultimately hustle culture is so intertwined with, I think, money and success. It doesn't have to be, but I think like on the broad term it is, that I think it is promoting like cultural values that are actually not fulfilling people long term. I'm
a much more like intense person than Mitch with my opinions, and I'm like, hustle culture is embarrassing in my opinion, especially now. It's like, okay, there's been a literal reckoning. Like we have lived through a pandemic. We have been like, for many people, our eyes have now been open to like the injustices of society, the inequality in society. To me, I'm like, if you are a part of hustle culture, if you're doing that whole LA, like, look at all this like shit that I have, like again, where I'm more intense. It's like I don't know if you can swear in your podcast, you, because it is all linked. It's like you're actually like contributing to this like culture of people who are saying that money comes first, that like cultural capital comes first. And that always means that it has to be on the backs of other people's labor or something below them. Like, obviously, we are Canadian, but on top of that, I am very much a socialist. And like, I do feel like it is completely connected. And like, as YouTubers, the whole ethos at the beginning was like, oh, it's like equal opportunity. Like anyone can do this. And then it's like, now, obviously, we see the industry take over. I'm like, why are people buying into this like so like effortlessly? And I think we do have a lot of young people watching us, and I do think that like there's a lot of like it's a nuanced conversation, but hustle culture, like being like work hard, like get your goal, like that, to me, I'm like, to what end is this like ever really going to be that good or even that interesting? I'm just like, what? And I think it does. Just like
there's one other study I'll bring up, and it was like somebody who it was like the people's biggest regrets at the end of their life. So it was like a person that worked with elderly patients and like did these big surveys around like the things they thought about their life, and like the most common themes were I worked too much and I didn't spend enough time with my family. Not to say that your values and things can change
and brush your teeth
in your life.
It was like a lot. Like number 3 was like teeth
floss.
care, like because then you can't eat food.
But yeah, I think we have slightly, like, I agree with Greg. I think I understand that we're all products of the system. So some people do this with good intentions. Some people hustle to do good work that is related to helping people in the world. And I think
if you're doing that, then I take back everything I'm saying. But I'm not. I'm just saying, well, like,
it's all about, it depends how it's like. If you're renting that Lamborghini solely to flash it on Instagram, maybe you need to reevaluate things. It just depends.
But also, why do you need to rent a Lamborghini? Full stop. This is where I'm at. I'm like, why? Like, honestly, I find cars very interesting. I'm like, it's such a flex. I'm like, okay, why do you have that car?
Right.
What do you guys? Right.
Sorry. What do you guys think? Like a healthier North Star, for people who are like, man, but right now in my life, work is that for me. I love it, and it's what I have, and when I have a family, sure, I'll pivot, because I think that's so important. Like, when you're old, what are the regrets? And you'll find a lot of consistencies with that. So what do you think is that healthy North Star? Because, even if you say happiness, that can sometimes be...
That's a trap. Like literally happiness is about sort of accepting that you're never going to like quote unquote be happy
all the time.
It's like, you have to, it's a quest. So yeah.
I think, I don't want to suggest that. I think work is an important part of people's lives. And I think lots of older people too decide not to retire because they want to have that meaning in their life. They want to have something that they can work towards and feel that they're contributing. So by no means do I think anyone should feel ashamed of working and ashamed of having goals.
Because it can give people purpose. And,
of course.
And, I think what we're seeing in the pandemic too, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I stopped working for 3 months, had an existential crisis, as we talked about.
So it's less that, but I think, in terms of North Star, obviously it's different for everyone. I think one thing I would say is going through this transition ourselves of being people, not that we were so like this, but being people who were hustling and who were trying really hard and like focused on the success of things, of course, intertwined with wanting to like make science accessible and those kind of things. But ultimately, I think when you reevaluate and try to change things in your life, you have to accept that there will be a transition period where it is actually harder. So like if you are really used to working all the time, it's actually not going to feel good if you try and stop working as much because your body's not going to know what to do with that.
And you might have to sacrifice numbers or money. Or
I think
that
there's just a point, and I don't know what this line is, but the conversation is, at what point do you have enough money for yourself that you can actually start to transform what you do and make sure it's also really considering the lives of others? And I won't make this about like different countries, but I do think when we talk about like sort of capitalist leaning countries versus like socialist leaning countries, the idea is like, how do we have a society that is not so individualistic, right? Like how do we build societies that, of course you want the benefit for yourself and your family and the people you care about, but can we care about more broadly our societies? Can we make sure that we have programs, libraries, community centers for people? How can you be part of that? I really think like the science shows that when you contribute to projects or things that help other people, those are truly the most fulfilling moments of your life. Doesn't mean it's easy to do. Doesn't mean stepping away outside yourself and being like, I'm gonna sacrifice my success for the success of others. But ultimately, I think that's why people who do volunteer charity work like really have much more fulfilled lives.